and Denette Schaer with the Broken for Better podcast.
And we are a marriage ministry that believes that you can pick up something today to make your relationship better. Enjoy.
Welcome back to the Broken for Better podcast. Just two best friends having conversations on a couch.
Or chairs.
Yeah, or chairs.
Or chairs.
One day we're going to be on the couch.
One day.
We're so glad that you are back, and we just once again want to thank those that continually support this ministry. Today we are talking about families.
Family. Do you have a song for this one? Because every week you've had a song. So are you going to let us down?
We are family.
Wow. You did bring that.
My brothers.
All my brothers and sisters and me.
There it is. Dude, that just came to me.
You are good.
That was good. That's good. You know, I'm a musician.
Every episode you've had a theme song.
I have. I totally
I'm proud
forgot
of
about
you.
that, actually. Wow, way to spur that on me. And guess what? I answered the call.
You
How
did.
about that?
Good job.
Very glad that you are here.
Good job.
We're going to talk about families, and we're going to talk about arguing. We're going to talk about time management. We're just going to talk about it all, kind of see where we go.
But
that just came to me, too.
We're not going to get too far into arguing, because I said, how did I say that? Arguing. I said it like,
we like to argue.
I argue, so yeah. Arguing, because we're going to have a whole series on conflict resolution in the coming days. Okay. But yeah, anyways.
How about we just start there?
Okay.
Arguing in our home.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what were the boundaries, what was the okay, because it definitely happened.
We had discussions.
They were elevated
discussions.
Emotional discussions.
For sure. Everybody does, yes.
Yeah. So let's start it from right there.
Okay,
arguing in your home growing up, did you see a lot of it? So when we got into our home, it was easy. Did you not see a lot of it? So arguing was weird and kind of made you feel awkward. Just take me a little bit through your arguing journey.
I think growing up, I did see tension. Like my parents definitely would have tension, but when they had a big discussion or big argument, it was always behind closed doors. Like we were never invited into that space. And I think there's good and bad in that. And I think we succeeded as a couple in doing that well sometimes and failed miserably other times. But
did you ever put your ear on the door to hear what they were arguing about?
No way. I would be scared to death to do that. Did
Me
you?
Either.
You did?
No, I would never do that.
Oh, wow. I'd be scared of your dad.
No,
I was
my
scared
parents'
of my
room was
dad.
like down a hallway, and in a 2-story, everything creaks, so they would have heard me.
Oh, I would have never been bold enough. No, we kind of stayed as far away as possible. Like I didn't want to.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-mm.
It's funny, and I would say in our home was probably the same thing. I don't know that we really saw my parents fight, really. I think you might know there's tension, and you might know things aren't like really jiving the way they should, but really never saw it in like a healthy way.
So do you think that was good or bad, or like helpful or beneficial? I don't want to say good or bad.
Yeah.
I want to say beneficial or non-beneficial.
I would definitely not say good or bad. I would say definitely not beneficial. Now on the other side of things, having the way we've done it with our family, our boys definitely watched us disagree. But they always watched us process out. Like it wasn't oh wait, there's mom and dad. They got in a fight. Oh, and then they vanished. Where did they go? And what happened? If they saw it start, they were going to see it end. And not all the time. Sometimes we had to take that thing to a bedroom.
I was going to say, I wanted to cut in there because I'm like, if it was going to get to an elevation or a heated, and there's certain topics that our kids weren't prepared to hear about. There were certain things we were walking through as a couple that our kids didn't need to face until we were on a united front and were able to, even if it was a hard thing, present to them as like a life change or something we were working through as a couple. So if it was going to elevate to an unhealthy level, one of us would usually shut it down and say, we need to have a conversation. And they knew we were
I think it typically was, I don't know that we said those words. I think it was when you walked off and stood at our bedroom door and said, Kurt, can you come here, please?
That's very true.
I think that's when we pretty much all knew what was going down.
Very true. I'd be like, hey, can we talk? Can we talk, please? Let's.
Hey, to this
do
day,
this.
we don't. When our kids aren't here, to this day, when we still you'll walk to the bedroom. Can we go? I'm like, we're here. Can we just stay in the living room?
I know.
Can we just stay right
No,
here?
you actually got on to me at one time about that. You said, I feel like every time you ask me to the bedroom, it's because I'm in trouble.
I mean,
And I felt
yeah.
that.
Are there any other dudes like
I
that?
felt
Like
so bad.
I want to be asked to the bedroom. Like I want you to ask me, but under different circumstances. So that's
What if I do that one day? I'll just surprise you. Say, can you come here, please? And it's for a good reason.
It'd be a game changer.
You think so?
From then on, I would run to the bedroom, and then you could yell at me.
Then you're going to be like, your expectations are going to be horribly unmet because I'll be like, nope, it's not that kind of meeting.
I'd have to ask, wait, why am I coming to the bedroom? What are we doing right now?
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, I would encourage you, if you're watching, you have kids, don't isolate them from that. See, remember, more things are caught than taught. So your kids literally are going to watch you process out. And if they see a healthy mother and father have communication, disagree, and then come to an understanding, then they're able to now carry that into their own relationship and go, okay, to my spouse, look, this is what conflict looks like. This is what conflict resolution looks like. We got to work this thing out. We got to talk this thing out, because they may marry someone who has never seen that.
Yeah.
And now they're trying to learn this behavior. It's one of the things that drives me bonkers about.
Is it Bonker Town?
It is bonker town. It's not bonker town. It drives me nuts though. Like, I don't think when it comes to conflict resolution, when it comes to intimacy, we don't have these conversations. And then we have generational unhealth because nobody wants to have conversations.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, look, stop generational unhealth. Take the time to have the conversation. Yes, it's uncomfortable, but you're changing the generations behind you. You're teaching your kids something that you weren't taught.
Yeah. You know what's crazy? When I was teaching first graders in Sunday school or life groups, whatever you want to call it, for, over 7-8 years, I think it was, I had the same age group every year. And some of the issues that would arise in that small group, it's really funny. There's just not that filter, that social filter of what's acceptable to talk about and not talk about is not there. So if you ever want to know what's happening in the families of your church, teaching a first grade class is really eye-opening.
Hey, you can get all the dirt.
I would have to like say, oh, let's talk about this off to the side, because all the other kids are like, what? But, it's crazy when you say what, you definitely, more is caught than taught, because there might be an interaction in Sunday school or in kids' church, and a parent would be like, why are you, talking like that? We don't treat people like that. And they're literally mimicking what they're seeing in their home. And so I think there has to be a boundary there. Then we have to know what that boundary is for. Yes, we want to demonstrate well in front of our kids, but there also has to be that cutoff mark where, listen, this is going to get heated, we need time away, or hey, mom and dad are really working through some stuff, we're going to need to chat for a little bit and come back to this, because we're really trying to do this the best we can. And even being vulnerable with your kids and telling them that, hey, we don't have all the answers, we're just really seeking Jesus and want to do this right and well, and we mess up sometimes. So there's a difference, and there definitely needs to be a boundary, especially if one person is very verbal in an unhealthy way. I think that can be traumatizing to a kid for them to watch that if it's not processed well. So it can be both and.
Is one of us verbal in an unhealthy way?
I can get verbal in an unhealthy way. What do you mean?
I wasn't trying to throw you under the bus.
I'm like, we need to stop this conversation.
It's never cussing.
Yeah.
It's you just get elevated, heated.
We keep it real on here. We can't say never cussing, because that's not truth.
Me can't say never cussing.
I can't never say cussing. I'm being honest.
I'm not going to say you never.
I'm not saying that I'm proud of that. I'm just saying I'm not going to pretend like that. That's not a struggle for sure.
I can say that I never cuss when we argue.
You're very good at that.
I don't do that. I don't like it.
Good job.
I don't feel like it's good.
Sorry. Yeah.
Cussing in my younger, sorry, she says. Cussing in my younger years was like, it was done because I was portraying an identity of who I wasn't. I wanted to be somebody, so I used this language that I thought everybody wanted to hear. Or cussing was, okay, we're past it now. We're fist fighting. Like we're in it. So
yeah, you do definitely have a switch.
So I think for me, it's like, I'm not going to toe those lines. I think it's degrading. Like if I got to use that language, like it's just, for me, it's an unhealthy state. I don't mind when you do it, but
I sound like I cuss all the time, guys. It's okay. You can pray for me.
Here's one of the things I feel about just conflict and arguments in family, and this is a real thing. You know, God created everything to be a living being. Our trees, everything's a living organism, right? It's growing, it's producing, and I feel like in your home, everything is growing, and it's either growing healthfully or it's growing unhealthy. And I think sometimes in this arguing and what we're teaching our kids and what's growing in their mind is okay or not okay, or are mom and dad on a good term or are they not on a good term? In their mind, this monster is growing far bigger than we think. You and I could get in a disagreement. We just fight and we're like, okay, done, it's over, whatever, what's for dinner? But in a kid's mind, what they hear is constantly, hey, Jimmy and Sarah's mom got a divorce. If you're Jimmy and Sarah, I'm sorry, your mom's not getting a divorce. I'm just saying, like, all they hear is in school, like, hey, divorce here, divorce here, divorce here. And now they watch this unhealthy communication. They watch this arguing. They saw no closure. They saw no, repentance, no hugging it out, no making it right. And so this living little organism now has grown into this monster of, oh my goodness, my parents hate each other, and now my parents are going to get a divorce. And now they're in this fear of, oh, I don't think my parents, and how many years do they live with that monster? So I'm constantly trying to hey, let's just chop down the monsters. Don't let things grow into these things that they ought not be, right?
Yeah, very true.
It's like, man, keep these things simple, keep them small, enjoy life. You know, we continually say life is so finite, and we think that 80 years is like this long period of time, and it is until you're in it.
Yeah.
You and I both know it. Every single year we're like, bro, that year flew by.
It's true.
Wow. So, 80 of those, and it's like, oh, now I'm standing before Jesus. And, man, I wasted so much time on the things that didn't matter. And so we just encourage you, man, continue to fight well.
Yeah, even we're going to be here soon and talking about a very, very sensitive subject that happened in our marriage early on, infidelity. And so when you talk about that, that's a huge topic. That's not something you get over overnight. That's not something that,
Or over a year.
Or multiple.
Or multiple years.
You work through, so when we had to walk our kids through some of the hardest parts of our relationship, I think making sure that those really hard, nasty, sometimes just guttural conversations behind closed doors happen in a healthy way. You come together, even if you're not on the same page, you come together for the likeness of your children and say, hey, mom and dad are walking through some really hard things. We just want to be transparent with where we are and tell you we love you and we're here for you. Just to confirm in their minds how much we together, even if we aren't together on the same page in our marriage and in that season, this is what we're walking through, and we want you to know we love you and we're here fighting as a family, and we don't want you to be scared to have questions, and opening that dialogue, I think, is very important. It's very important.
Yeah, I think about that one in particular, and I don't want to get too much into it because there is a big thing that we're about to do on that.
Yeah.
But, I can think about when that truth came out to you, our kids didn't find out until we were about to take it public.
Right, because we weren't in a place where we were healed enough.
Right.
So
what that was probably 2.5 or 3 years, that gap, that distance. You and I are working through this.
Right.
And I remember the conversations because kids pick up on tension.
Of course.
And so it's, hey, listen, we're working through some things. You may not need to know the thing.
Right.
But just know, we're processes and we're working out. So when you feel tension, it's because there's tension.
And not because of you.
And it's got zero to do with you.
Right.
I love that. But they definitely knew there was something. And then when I remember when we sat them down and we really explained to them, hey, this is what we were processing out. And I had to do a lot of repenting to the whole family there. I would encourage you, if your kids are old enough, if they're old enough to sense, look, something's not right, or if they're old enough to sense that they're catching the fallout of something, then they're old enough to let them know, hey, listen, please understand, we're going to fail. We're processing some things out.
And I can tell you from being one that has loved kids ministry, they know more than you think they know. They pick up on a lot more than you think they pick up on.
It was always funny to me.
Yeah.
The way you would come home and get in the car and we'd drive home. How was Sunday school? She'd go, woo. Boy, little Timmy. Man, I had to cut him off. He was going in. And then I'm like, really? I'm like, did that just start? She's like, no, I found it so easily. I can give them like a lollipop. They'll tell me all the dirt.
You lie. You so lie.
So every week we had to buy lollipops so she could go get all the dirt.
You're such a liar. No, but yeah, I will tell you that kids, I mean, even from a young age, you sometimes can see a mom with a young baby that is really struggling and they're picking up on that tension, right? That they just don't know what to do. I remember when our very first one was born, Dylan, and I couldn't get Dylan to stop crying that first night. And I was so anxious, feeling like I was going to be a horrible mother. And I remember your mom walking in the door and just saying, hey, why don't I take him for a little bit while you take a nap? And I just started crying because I was so tired. And she took him and his whole demeanor changed because he was picking up on that demeanor of hers, just going, oh, it's okay. Even if you cry all night, I'll just be here. And I really, in that moment, learned like, I've got to check my emotions, so that because my kids are going to pick up on it,
Hard.
But yeah.
Hard. Let's flip it.
Okay, let's flip it. I know we
brought
got
up
into
arguing, and that went deep quick. And we're going to conflict
know.
resolution, so that should be a fun one that we
Fun, good times.
Throw a topic out there. Bomb it.
Oh, okay. One of the things that I think you really, really did well was, especially in our latter years of like kid raising, was balancing that home and work life. And I think that's so difficult for a lot of individuals to balance well. And just to like honor you, I really feel like our boys never had to question for the, if they called and you saw it, if you didn't see the call, obviously, but if you saw it, no matter where you were, what you were doing, they took priority or I took priority. And that's not typical for a lot of people, but I think you fought to make that happen because at the beginning of our marriage, that wasn't necessarily the case. Even in the beginning of ministry for us, that kind of became like the priority. And then you really worked hard to transition that priority back to a healthy boundary. So what would your advice be, or how do you think what even made you like switch that balance?
It was so funny as it happened today. I was on a conference call. We were on a visual conference call.
You were, yeah.
My son's name came across my phone. I dumped out of the call, like, gotta go. For me, there came a moment where I realized that value is more shown than it is spoken. I can tell you all day long you're the most important thing. But if I don't show that, what are those words? They eventually fall on deaf ears.
Yeah.
I remember just as a child, man, I never had to wonder were my parents going to be there.
Yeah.
Never. And I know for some, that's probably a sensitive subject, and I just would encourage you, like, and it's a deeper conversation and take more time, but you may have not had an earthly father in the stands, but please understand, you had a heavenly Father that saw every game.
Yeah.
That saw every moment. And you were the most important thing. And I think for me, I never had to wonder that. Like, my parents were always there. I mean, so much that to this day, I would think, the kids, they got to a place where it was like, yeah, our kids are gone and I don't know that we really like each other, and had to walk through a divorce as well. And so I never had to wonder what they thought of me. And I think there came a season in my life where I watched, and I'm going to step on church toes here, so pastors don't get angry and church people don't get angry, but there are a lot of pastors that are having affairs with the church.
Whoa, say that again. That was deep.
Yeah, they are married. Their spouse is the church. And that spouse that sits at home wondering when their husband will come home, who he's ministering to. That church gets all of their emotion, all of their time. It gets all of their everything. And then they bring home the leftovers, which is typically anger, bitterness, resentment, and tiredness. That's what they bring home, and they leave the good parts of them at the church. And I saw too many guys that's the way they lived, and they wore it as a badge of honor. Like,
wow,
this man, and I just, man, it made me want to puke. Like your family is your first priority. I talk about this chocolate fondue fountain partially because I love chocolate fondue. That needs to be a topic. Strawberries and chocolate fondue.
We should go get chocolate fondue this week. Okay. Anyway, sorry.
Bet.
Promise.
We're good.
Date night. Oh,
she
date
threw
night.
the
Y'all heard
promise.
it here. You heard it
She threw
here.
the
You heard it
promise on
here.
me. So good. Anyway, this fondue fountain where this top rung is always the smallest rung, but out of that top layer, it flows into the second layer. Well, if that top layer is you and God, then what flows into you and your spouse is that relationship. What comes out of the relationship with you and God, it flows into that second tier. Well, then if your marriage is healthy, that flows into that third tier, which is your family and your kids. Then it flows into that fourth tier, which is your employment, your calling, where you work, what you do. So it's getting the overflow of your walk with God, your walk with your wife, your walk with your family, then your employment. Now, here what happened. So many times I watch people take this fondue fountain and they take the top rung and they take the bottom, the biggest rung, and they move it to the top. Well, if you take the biggest on top, now it bypasses your walk with God, it bypasses your marriage, and it spills onto the floor and bypasses your family.
Yeah.
Because you have things out of bounds. It's out of order.
Yeah.
And so I watch these ministers do that, and they lose their kids. Their kids hate the church. Their kids are off the chain. They're disobedient and crazy. And it's like, well, yeah, because you're married to the church. That's where you're at right now. And so, and it could be a job. It could be accounting. You could be working. I work 82 hours a week. Well, excellent.
Wow.
And, I posted a while back, like, nobody's going to remember that except your kids when you're 22 and they're telling other people, yeah, my parents were never home. My dad was never home. It's that song, where the kid just wants to spend time with his dad. The cat's in the crate.
Oh, that's sad. Yeah,
that's a sad song. But
we're not singing that song.
It's real life.
Yeah, it is real life.
And I think there came a season where it was like, I'm not doing that. In my kid's life, I want to be the most important thing. I may not be the most perfect thing.
Correct.
But I'm going to be the most important. And I just made it. And so then.
Not even the most important, but the most influential. I think you wanted.
That's a better word.
I think.
Right.
Yeah, I think you wanted to have the most influence and be the most important voice that they heard. And so I think you did that so well. And I think you also gave us space, even though, talk about some discussions we may have had behind closed doors, you might not have liked it in the moment. You always gave us a voice to say, hey, things are kind of upside down right now. Or even, there's seasons in ministry or seasons in work. Like if you're an accountant and you're, season would be tax season. If you're, I don't give me another job that would be busy. If you're a football player, obviously the Super Bowl, whatever. There's seasons
if you're in church, it's that event,
Christmas,
that
Easter,
conference, that Sunday, that Wednesday. It never stops in church.
It could be all of them. And so you end up, all these events become more important. So it would be, that vital conversation of, we've had so much time spent at XYZ. We're going to take off so much time to invest in our family. So, but you gave voice if things kind of got upside down. You really did. And so you allowed us to say, hey, the church got the best of you this week. Like the church people got joyful Kurt, we got tired Kurt. And it might not have been the best conversation in the moment, but we had those.
And that was when one of my sons literally said,
yeah,
how come everybody at church gets to see you smile and you come home and we don't see you smile?
Ouch. Yeah.
It's painful. Because I would even say, like, your words are so honoring and humbling, and honestly. And I would say towards the latter part of my, being inside the walls of a church, I got much better at that. In the beginning, though, I don't think I was, because I felt like, and this is totally wrong, but I felt like if I didn't, who would?
Right. And the reality is what? The reality is someone else is going to step right in and fill those shoes quicker.
Bro, listen. One thing I learned is, guess what?
Yeah.
God don't need you to keep things moving.
That's right. That's right.
It's almost like the athletics. It's like next man up. Oh, you got hurt on a play? Don't worry. We got two behind you and you'll never see the field again. That happens in professional athletes. Like they get
But
hurt
it
and boom.
happens in every line of work.
Yep.
It happens in every line of work. And ministry is a line of work. It is. And so it's a matter of, okay, yes, what is my biggest ministry, like you said, is your family. Yeah. And
But
I'm
I think
thankful.
we take it, it's like selfish. For me, there was like some selfish pride. Now the
called
flip
false
side of that
humility.
It is false humility. But I will say, and you can call me a liar dead here on these cameras if you want to. We'll edit it out. I love the local church.
Correct. Of course. Yeah.
And literally gave everything to it.
Yeah.
And so some of it wasn't even like, oh, this is selfish me. I just want to be there.
Yeah.
Man, this is my, like, watching the lights turn on in people's eyes and seeing salvations and health and seeing God honored. Like that became that was everything to me.
Yeah.
But it can almost become like a drug in a sense that goes, oh, I gotta have it. That's what drives me. And if I'm not having it, and to be honest, that's like, we worked through that in 2013 when I was working for a nonprofit. We're working through some of that now, of like, man, I've got to be able to give my giftings. I've got to be able to love the church. I've got to be able to do it in a way that's healthy and God honoring, but do it in a way that it's number 4 on my priority list. And I have no problem telling anyone that, like, yeah, I love the church and we'll still serve it and do everything for it, but it's going to fall in line with my family. So.
Yeah. And you don't want that light to turn on in someone else's eyes at the detriment of your family. Like, yes, that it's beautiful. But again, like we also want to steward that thing that's in our hands right now.
I can line the families up. I mean, I could easily give you 5 that I know of because they're always embedded in my brain. But I probably could line them up of families whose kids don't attend church because their parents gave everything to the church. And for me, it's a slippery slope. I want to make sure that my family knows they are even when they go through hard things. Man, I'll tell you what, Ups Up the Gram. Check him out. Tim Ross just did a thing this past week. Absolutely loved it. And, showing grace in people's hard moments, knowing that their story is still being written.
Right.
We like to see the story end. And I feel like, man, I want to, even when I'm having hard seasons and my family and it's tense and the boys are doing this, it's hard. Man, I'm going to love them. I'm going to walk it out. And then the church will fall in line. And what I loved was so many healthy families that when they began to see it, they begin to shift. I watched them change priorities in their family. They see the health. They see that you can't argue with it. So whether it was accounting or, man, make your family a priority, watch, you will reap the benefits of those decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. And hiding those hard things we're walking through, just to put on a face to do something, whether that's work or ministry or church, it doesn't protect our family. They know the truth. They know what we're walking through. They know what they're walking through. It's so much more beneficial for us to just hand in hand say, hey, hard season, we're going to face this together. Highs and lows, good and bad. This is who we are.
So let me ask you this. I'm going to flip topics.
Okay.
When you talk about family, we talk about arguing, we talk about priorities and making them number one. Let's kind of talk on a little deeper one here, and let's talk about loving a family member through trauma or mental illness.
Wow.
Okay. This is an area that you and I got thrust into on the trauma side. I would say our marriage looks different for sure. We interact differently for sure. What was one of the biggest things, like through our trauma and through our hard moment, what was something, or how did you learn to live with me, react to me, deal with me? Like, kind of what's your process in that situation?
Wow. It's been so different that in some, I think some days we do well with it. Other days we revert back to just old practices, or what's the word I'm looking for? Old things that are comfortable, or past responses. But I think for us, we've grieved so differently, but even our mental health has been so different. I think the best thing that we've done is tried to voice continually to each other where we are in that day, or even moment, because sometimes our triggers, our trauma, our grief, our PTSD, or whatever can shift so drastically, that I think we're learning to walk in a new grace and a new pace. There have been days that I've woken up and had multiple triggers throughout the night, or dreams or whatever. And in the past, we would have pushed through, right? We would have pushed through, an argument or a family crisis, or we would have pushed through. And in this moment, we're learning to say, no, our priority today is our own sanity. Our priority today is your own heart. My priority today is taking care of my well-being, not being there for someone else right now. And so I think that has shifted, and I think we're learning to voice what we need ourselves and give grace to the other person when they maybe don't respond in the best way.
Yeah.
Unlike we have in any other season in our marriage.
I think to not do that, I know for me, it's become far more vocal of, yeah, it's not a good day. When I think before I would never have done that, right? It's always a good day. I think I'm trying to curb resentment setting in, that I don't get. I'm able to talk more because I don't want to be resentful that, you're having another hard day. Oh, well, come on. You got to it's been a year now. It's really living in this moment and learning you in a way to go, wow, these are the ebbs and flows of emotions. We have these good days and we have these bad days. And for me to not be able to walk the bad days, it's because I have an expectation of you that I want you to always be a good day. And I think for a lot of our marriage, that's kind of where we're at. We knew we'd have hard days, but come on, man, lace them up. Let's roll, girl. It's going to be okay. And I think learning now the health to be able to go, listen, I'm in a bad moment. Mm-hmm. And I think me being able to really come alongside you and through prayer, inviting, we heard it so well this weekend from Jimmy and Irene Rollins, being able to invite Jesus into that mess.
Yeah.
Being able to go, hey, listen, I may not be able to fix that mess, but I'm not going to stay out here and get mad. I'm going to war with her, and I'm going to invite Jesus, Holy Spirit, into this mess and pray that through that invitation, not only is it healing my heart, but it's healing yours.
Yeah.
Two of us being able to go, man, we're warring completely different. Mm-hmm. You're warring to get up out of bed. I'm warring for you that you would find this place today that we need to be. And maybe it happens today and maybe not. And am I willing to walk that journey, not just an hour, not just a day? Am I willing to walk that journey 2 days?
Right.
3 days? I just think we don't give permission enough for healthy grieving.
Right. Yeah, I think also, when a family goes through a crisis, it's not just the mom and dad. It's the entire family that walks through it. Mm-hmm. And so let's say, we're having a decent day. Well, maybe family members of ours aren't. And so it's mind-blowing to me, but it's also freeing to me to realize that a lot of the, just put a smile on, just, today's going to be a good day. Just, the niceties and the platitudes that we say to each other Platitudes. I know.
Niceties and platitudes.
I know.
We've been together 30 years. I don't know if I've ever heard those back. I don't know if I heard them individually.
I got big words up in this brain. You just don't know.
You're reading too much.
It's like, but those things that we say when someone's walking through a hard season, a lot of times it's not even to be beneficial to them. It's because we're uncomfortable in the moment and we don't know. We want them to be happy and we don't know how to fix it. So we say things not out of their discomfort, but our own. And so all too often, we find ourselves saying, oh, it's going to be okay. Joy comes in the morning. And there's a lot of truth.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of truth. But when someone is walking through their darkest moment, whether that be a mom, a dad, whether it was the cancer report or the loss that you just suffered or the job you just got laid off of, or the team that your kid didn't make, or the broken heart that their boyfriend or girlfriend just broke, whatever their dark moment they're walking through, slapping some little bumper sticker on the back doesn't help them. And we do it so often because we are uncomfortable and not being able to fix it.
Man, as a dad, I can tell you, Dad, hearing you say it is so convicting. Because I know of moments that the boys would come home in bad days. And it was like, bro, don't bring that garbage up in here. I'm in a good mood. You got to figure that. Fix your face, kid.
Fix your face.
Fix your face.
Do you remember that?
I don't, but it
that
sounded
video?
awesome.
Oh, my goodness. I should clip
on
that
our melting pot date.
Fix your
we can
face.
Watch it.
Okay, deal.
But I remember it was like they're going through hard things, or I'm like, told you so. Shouldn't have made that decision. I told you.
That's the worst.
And me thinking this tough love is bringing them up out of their pit. And I can tell you today, when I sense or when they're open enough to tell me, hey, it's a bad day, man, I can tell you the empathy that I have now to get down in the mud with them is polar opposite of what I've lived my entire life.
So you said the word empathy, and I feel like God's given you a very good picture of the difference between sympathy and empathy. What is that definition that you feel like God's been clarifying to you over this last year?
Yeah. Sympathy is something I have for a lot of people. And man, I'm really sorry about your scenario, your situation. Wow. And we'll utter things, especially, Christianese. I'll pray for you. Is there anything that I can do? Man, let me know if I can help. And sometimes we mean it and sometimes we don't.
Yeah.
That's sympathy. We feel bad that you're going through that situation. I would say there's countless people who sympathize with us in our scenario.
Right.
The sympathy that they've shown, or, in their own homes or text or emails or whatever, they sympathize where we're at.
Right.
Empathy now is, hey, listen, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get out of my chair. I'm going to crawl down in your hurt, and I'm going to sit with you. Man, I want to know it. Talk to me. I want to hug you. Man, where are you at? What? Man, I can't fix anything, but I can sit here. I can get in the hurt and the pain, and I can just be with you.
Yeah.
That's empathy. That's getting in the mess. Now, countless people sympathize for us.
Yeah.
A handful have empathized with us.
Yeah. And those have been the ones that have truly held our arms up.
Oh.
The ones that have said, okay, today we do this. Today I do this with you. Today, they've been the ones that have held our arms up, and there's beauty in that. And sometimes it can be hard when your family's walking through a hard time, and you're looking at your child or your teenager that might be walking through depression or loss or all those things. But when we just sit in the space to say, no matter what you walk through, I'm here. There's something that is so grounding and hope-filling when someone is capable and able to do that. And not everybody is.
Hey, listen, I'm going to tell you this, and no, capable and able, because there was a moment here in the last year that, being a chaplain for a business, I got a phone call that said somebody we know is their son just had a major accident.
Right.
And they're in the hospital and they're going through surgery and it's not looking good. Sympathy goes, man, that's really sad. I feel terrible for them.
Yeah.
Oh, man, please let them know I'm praying. That's sympathy. And sympathy is not a bad thing. That's good.
No.
Learning this empathetic thing and what this really is, I very quickly looked at them and went, I'll go.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget driving to the hospital late at night. I don't know this family. I just know that they're potentially about to lose their grown son. And so out of empathy, I was going to go and I was going to sit. And for sure I was going to weep with them because I was not at all equipped.
Correct.
I'm still going through my own stuff. You know what I mean? But I was just going to get in the mess with them.
Right.
Now, get there. He was in surgery when I got there. The family had left for the night. And so I prayed with them over the phone, talked to them, and voice talked to them and let them know that we would connect. And I remember leaving and getting to the car and just was just lost it.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't ready for that moment. And I think it was the grace of God, honestly, to see my heart was willing.
Right.
But he showed me in that moment, look, you're not capable or able to do this.
Not
but
yet.
man, I'm proud of you that you were willing to do it. So I will tell you, if you, in this sympathy, empathy vein and in your family when they need you, don't think that you're not capable or able. You're probably not. But the willingness to show up speaks far more. The willingness to love through the hardest. Man, when I think about families and I have them in my head where they have, children that require more, man, the empathy that they have for their children to walk the hard days.
Yeah.
And they're tired and they're exhausted. And they don't have the physical strength to do it, but they find it and they're just there and they're able. And man, my heart, those are champions to me. Those are the people that you look at and go, man, they're just super special and super sweet. So don't wait till you think you're able, because in some haughtiness and some arrogance, man, just go willing, empathize, man. Get in that family member's hurt. They break up with a girlfriend, a boyfriend, hurt with them.
Yeah.
Let them talk it out. Unless you're this one. And then she's like, well, I prayed them out anyhow. But we empathized with them. We still wept with them. We still did the thing.
Sure. No, for sure.
But we knew.
When you think about our, last couple meetings, we've been, loving on some families, some couples. One of those topics that really has been, present has been how did we manage our family dynamic when it came to the workload, the chores in the house, the expectations of our kids or our spouse. How did we manage that? And did we do it well? I know sometimes we totally did not.
I don't think we did.
Yeah, I know. I
think
struggle.
We did, honestly.
As I watch my poor daughter-in-laws have to clean up after our boys, I'm like, oh, I don't know. I think we missed the mark.
That's
some
on you.
days.
Because they all have jobs.
On
That
me.
taught them well. Get a job.
Yeah. So do their wives. So yeah.
That's right.
Thank you.
Yeah, honestly, I think we did the best we could.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't think what is right. I don't know. We did the best we could. Our kids were very responsible. They did when we needed them to do something, they did it. I don't know that we taught well enough that they just woke up one day and said, you know what, today I'm going to do the dishes and I'm going to make my bed and I'm going to mow the grass.
There were a couple times they shocked us. A couple times. Then I was like, wow.
And then as soon as they finished, we're like, we're really proud of you. Like, hey, I was wanting to know if maybe I could have. And we're like, there it is. There it is. That's what it was.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
I think when it comes to managing, I think open communication is good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what triggers for me because I think we didn't openly communicate. We waited till we were frustrated and then just lashed out at, you don't do this, you never do this, how come you don't do this, why don't you clean your room? Like, I don't think there was healthy communication, healthy boundaries, and clear expectations set. You know what I mean? Now, we never did like a reward system. You know,
We've tried it. We always failed at it. When they were little, I tried a couple times, and I was like, this is awful. I just want you to do what you're supposed to do. It's like,
I don't feel like I need to pay you to live in my house.
No, we didn't do the pay thing, but we didn't do like, what's that called when you, allowance. Thank you. We didn't do like an allowance. Thank you.
She's like, allowance. Can we start that?
She's like, I want an allowance. We didn't do an allowance, but we did like, we did an kind of like an expectation chart where they had like things like, these are the things you have to do before you can
go
on.
You used to have those things on the fridge.
Yeah. Like you got to do these things before you can do the fun things. You know, it was kind of like their responsibilities. And I think that worked a little bit when they were young. But I do think we kind of did take that same mentality when they were older. Did it work perfectly? No. But that same mentality when, you know, like that reward system, I think so often we're raised to think that everything we have, we deserve. And for us, we would take the stance like, we've provided things for you. And there are things that that are required of us, a shelter, food, you know, love, all of those, unconditional love. I think should be
Food
something.
was conditional. We went a couple days, we didn't feed them.
That's not true. That is so not true. They cleaned us out of house and home, raising boys. But
even today.
Yeah, our Nathan will walk in and go straight to the pantry. But when
greatest story ever. Keep that. That's a real serious thought. It's gonna be great.
Okay.
Put it in check now. Kid's married, got his own house. Comes over. I don't buy much. I'm dank game for anything.
You don't buy much because you don't grocery shop. Okay. If we're gonna call it out.
So I buy this one drink that I love. It's just my drink. It's only B&D living at the house. He walks in my office. I'm in the back. He comes in my house. He can get in. Obviously, it's his house. He comes in my office and he's drinking my drink. The drink I bought myself.
Was that the Celsius?
But
sorry.
We're not sponsored by them, so we're not going to talk about them.
We're now sponsored by Celsius. They could be. We would love it.
That would be awesome. Yeah, we're taking sponsors. If you'd like to sponsor the Broken for Better podcast, now's your moment. He comes back drinking my drink, and I'm like, bro, what are you doing? He said, I wanted a drink. I'm like, that's the one thing that I got myself. Like, not everything here is yours. Without hesitation, my man looks at me dead in the eye, holds my drink up and says, should I call mom and ask her? I'm like, dude, that's a low shot.
Because I was like, I will stock this house with whatever you need to keep coming to visit.
You're just buying their love.
I'll buy it. Listen, I'll buy it.
You don't even argue. You're like, yep, that's what I'm doing.
I'm like, what do you want? Pop-Tarts, baby? I'll have Pop-Tarts for you next time you come over.
I'm like, girl, we haven't had Pop-Tarts in 6 months.
But that expectation, you know, of theirs, it had to meet the requirement of ours. So, you know, we provide phones, we provide Wi-Fi, we provide these things that, yes, every household, especially in an American culture, you know, first world has, but those are benefits that are paid for by someone working hard to get them. And so in our home, we didn't really reward necessarily for, like, we didn't do, you know, why can I not think of that word? What did you say? We did not give an allowance. That's hard.
That's a tough word for you.
It's
you
a hard word.
Grown up,
it was out of, I didn't have an allowance either. And not, you know, every family is different. I'm not saying if you do an allowance, it's wrong. I'm not saying that.
We did have an allowance.
But for us, you did growing up?
Yeah, and it was so great. I love my mom for doing it. Shout out to Pam Schaer. Love her. She would give us $1.
Yeah.
That was our allowance. Because back in the day, $1. Our kids won't even, $1 now, they won't even move. But back in the day, and I had 3 cups. I had a offering cup that I had to put a dime in.
That's nice.
Then I had a savings cup that I had to put 20 cents in. And the rest could go in my spending cup.
Oh.
So even at an early age, I was only getting 70 cents on my $1.
That's a great thing to teach, though.
I said shout out to Pam Schaer. I mean, I think we could have upped it, maybe $5, something like that. I mean, when you're putting a dime. And you know how hard it is when she gives you $1, now you got to try to put 10 cents in a cup?
I remember it was funny because we didn't do the allowance thing. For us, it was our point of view as a couple was more like, you know, we work hard to provide. You also being a part of this household are required to do some things to pour into our home, like to keep our home running and functioning. And so that's how we kind of did it. But I remember when our boys got their first job, Dylan specifically, he gets his first job. He's working at McDonald's, and he comes home and he's like, do you know how much I actually brought home? He was so ticked. And he's like, so everything for the next like 6 months, he would correlate to hours. We would go somewhere and we'd be like, hey, he'd want to buy something, and he'd look, he goes, no way, that's 2 hours. That's not worth it. That's crazy. He'd look at something, that's 8 hours. There's no way.
That was actually the greatest spending curve.
It was. Yes. We just were dying laughing because it was crazy. But each household has different rules of engagement when it comes to those chores. And I think sitting down when everyone is, able to, and having conversations to check in. We did have those multiple times where everyone had to sit down. We had to do a check-in, like, hey, this is how things are kind of going. Let's ramp some things up. Let's revisit some things because things aren't flowing well. Trying to do that not in the heat of the moment, I think, is important.
Mm-hmm. Definitely don't have family meetings in the heat of the moment.
We've done those
sometimes
too.
You need to, though. Like, yeah.
We've done those too.
We've done that a time or two. She was cussing.
Oh, that is not true. That's not true.
Never cussed at the kids. Just at me.
Why is this about my cussing? I was like, I'm going to...
listen, when it's like... when you can't find any flaws in a person... And you finally find, look, you laugh because you're like, she's so right. I don't have flaws.
That's not true.
Like, and you finally find that thing, you just ride that donkey until it falls over. So, anyway, yeah, don't cuss at your kids. That's today's podcast. No cussing at your kids.
Don't cuss at your kids.
Get out of my face. Hey, you got any other topics?
I'm good. I think I'm good.
Any topics over there? No, nothing we should talk about?
She's like, cut it down.
Any
Shut
more
it
family
down.
Things? No? All right. Well, listen. Once again, two best friends having conversations. We thank you for joining us. We continue to say we couldn't do this without the monthly support of those who support Broken for Better monthly. If this has brought value to you, and you could, I think about, yeah, this is not the one. But if this brought value to your family, and I would just encourage you, pray about that. See how you could come alongside of us as we just continue to do what we can to better generations behind us. Hey. I love you.
I love you too.
Always a pleasure.
Yep.
Always a pleasure. We're out.
Bye. This fun.